The metallic clink of each quarter hitting the grocery store conveyor belt was a tiny, shameful gong, echoing the emptiness of her wallet and the cavernous fear in her chest. With trembling fingers, Sarah fished the last few coins from the depths of her worn purse, her cheeks burning with a heat that had nothing to do with the store's fluorescent lights. She couldn't meet the cashier's eyes, focusing instead on the small, blue can of formula. A lifeline for her daughter, a monument to her failure. The line behind her was a palpable presence, a wall of impatient sighs and the subtle shuffling of feet. Sarah felt every second stretch into an eternity. She'd already had to ask the wary cashier to void a jar of store, brand peanut butter, and a single banana. Luxuries she'd thought she could afford, until the total flashed on the screen, a number that mocked her meticulous calculations. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice cracking as the cashier, a woman named Brenda with kind eyes and tired lines on her face, patiently counted the quarters. "It's for the formula." The explanation tumbled out, an unnecessary apology to the universe. Brenda offered a small, understanding smile. "It's okay, honey. We've all been there." But Sarah didn't believe her. No one could possibly be in this specific, gut-wrenching place. The soul-crushing exhaustion of two back-to-back shifts waiting tables, the haunting ghost of her husband's abandonment a year prior, the constant, gnawing anxiety that she was one missed shift away from disaster. It all condensed into this moment, into the pathetic symphony of her last 4.75 in quarters paying for her 5-month-old daughter Lily's next 2 days of meals. She braced for a comment from behind her, a derisive snort, anything. What she heard instead was a deep calm voice, quiet yet authoritative. "Put it on my card." Sarah flinched, turning to see a man in an impeccably tailored charcoal gray suit. He was older, with distinguished silver at his temples and eyes that held a depth of intelligence. And in that moment, an unexpected softness. He held a single avocado and a bottle of water. In his other hand, he held a black credit card. "Oh, no sir, I couldn't," Sarah stammered, her pride flaring like a dying ember. "Thank you, but really I've almost got it." The man didn't look at the cashier, but at Sarah. He saw the dark circles under her eyes, the worn thinness of her coat, the fierce, protective way her body was angled toward the cart where her baby slept peacefully, oblivious to the storm raging around her. "It would be my honor," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument, but devoid of all condescension. It was a statement of fact. He gestured to the now voided items behind the formula. "And add her other things back, please." A tears, hot and uncontrollable, welled in Sarah's eyes. This wasn't the script. Strangers didn't do this. They judged, they hurried, they looked away. They didn't step in with a quiet command that felt less like charity and more like grace. The transaction was completed in a silent blur. The beep of the scanner, the swipe of the black card, the rustle of the bags being packed. Sarah's pride warred with a relief so profound it made her knees weak. She turned to thank him, to truly thank him, but the words stuck in her throat, a tangled mess of gratitude and humiliation. He simply nodded, a kind, almost paternal look in his eyes. "Take care of that beautiful baby," he said softly. And then, as quickly as he had appeared, he was gone, leaving only the echo of his kindness and the weight of his absence. Sarah walked out of the store into the crisp evening air, the formula and her reclaimed groceries in the cart. The encounter replayed in her mind. It wasn't the money, though that was a miracle. It was the way he had looked at her, not with pity, but with seeing. He had looked at her and seen a mother fighting for her child, not a failure counting quarters. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen. That night as she fed Lily, the simple act felt different. It was no longer a reminder of struggle, but a quiet, nourishing moment of peace, gifted to her by a stranger. The man's face, his calm authority, his profound lack of judgment, lingered in her mind like a promise she didn't yet understand. The kindness of the stranger became a tiny flame in the darkness of Sarah's life. It didn't pay the rent, but it warmed something inside her that had gone cold. It was a reminder that goodness existed, a concept that had begun to feel like a fairy tale. That flame gave her the courage to do something she'd been putting off for weeks. She applied for a better job. It was an administrative assistant position at a gleaming tech firm called Ather Innovations. The job description demanded skills she hadn't used since before Lily was born. The old Sarah would have seen the glossy glass building and assumed she wasn't good enough. The new Sarah, fortified by a single act of grace, spent every nap time tailoring her resume and practicing interview questions. Weeks later, sitting in the sterile, modern lobby of Aether Innovations, her confidence wavered. She felt out of place in her second-hand interview suit. But she thought of Lily. She thought of the man in the grocery store. She sat up straight. The interview was a blur of questions. She was honest about her gap in employment, framing it not as a setback, but as a masterclass in time management, resilience, and prioritizing under pressure. You learn to be efficient, she said with a small, genuine smile, when nap time is your only window to get anything done. She was called back for a second interview, this time with a senior director. And then, a third. The HR manager smiled. Finally, she said, the CEO likes to meet all potential hires. It's a bit unusual, but it's his philosophy. He believes character is as important as competence. Nerves jangling, Sarah was led into a corner office with a breathtaking view of the city. Behind a large, minimalist desk, a man stood up to greet her. Her breath caught in her throat. It was him. The silver hair, the intelligent eyes, the calm authority. Alexander Sterling, CEO of Aether Innovations. He extended his hand, a faint knowing smile on his lips. Mems Evans. It's a pleasure to see you again. The world tilted. Sarah's mind raced, unable to reconcile the image of the humble man with the avultaido with the powerful titan of industry standing before her. You're... she stammered. I am, he said gently, gesturing for her to sit. Please don't be nervous. Your resume is impressive. But I must confess, I already knew you had something special. He leaned forward, his hands steepled. That day in the store, I didn't just see a mother in need. I saw a woman of profound strength. I saw dignity under immense pressure. I saw resilience. Those aren't things you can teach. Those are the qualities that build great teams and great companies. The tears filled her eyes again, but this time they were pure, unadulterated tears of hope. He hadn't helped her out of pity. He had borne witness to her strength. His act of kindness hadn't been an end, but a beginning. A vote of confidence from the universe, delivered by its most unlikely messenger. Sarah got the job. Under Mr. Sterling's mentorship, she didn't just thrive, she soared. She brought the same fierce determination she used for Lily to her work. Years later, she was no longer an assistant, but the head of a department dedicated to corporate social responsibility, a division she herself proposed and built. The division's flagship program was the Quarter Fund, a discreet, judgment-free system to help any employee facing a sudden short-term crisis. It was funded anonymously. Though everyone knew its origin story, a legend passed down through the company halls. One day, a young intern, flustered and embarrassed, was at the pharmacy counter in the building's lobby, short on cash for a prescription. Sarah watched from a few feet away, her heart clenching with familiar empathy. She walked up, placed a gentle hand on the young woman's shoulder, and said to the cashier, "Put it on my card." The intern looked at her, eyes wide with shock and gratitude. Sarah smiled, seeing her own reflection from years ago. "It's okay," she said, her voice soft with understanding. "We've all been there." In that moment, the circle was complete. A single act of compassion had rippled outwards, changing one life, then another, then an entire community. It was a testament to the truth that no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. It is a seed that, when planted in the soil of a struggling heart, can grow into a forest of hope. Inspiring message. Never underestimate the profound impact of a single moment of human connection. In a world that often measures value in dollars and status, true wealth is found in the courage to see another's struggle, and the grace to offer a hand without judgment. The smallest act of empathy can be the catalyst that changes a life, and that life, in turn, can change the world. Our greatest legacy is not what we build for ourselves, but the hope we help build in others. Moral of the story. A single act of compassion can break the chain of despair and create a new legacy of hope.